So representing Nigeria in Cape Verde, was an amazing opportunity for me. Little did I know that I was going to win the title Miss ECOWAS, and that just took my, would I say, was what set the foundation for my career today. And this is the reason why my love for pageantry is just so different. When I, I ended up becoming the CEO of Miss Nigeria, people kept asking, what's the correlation? And for me, was going back to seeing what the platform that pageantry gave me and how that has affected my life to today. Um, it's basically what I wanted to give to other people who wanted to become beauty queens. And I always tell every beauty queen today that the platform is it gives you a platform. What you do with it is really up to you. For me, uh, being a beauty queen under the Miss ECOWAS pageant gave me the platform to extend my career to what it is today. I would say I've always done things within the same field since I started my career. And it really started with the opportunity I got with the ECOWAS pageant. And my work as a goodwill ambassador to ECOWAS, and my mission work starting from Guinea-Bissau, then to Liberia and other West African countries, where I then met other, what I call them, mission workers from different parts of the world doing amazing stuff. And these are people who were more experienced than I was, and they knew I was a young person. I think I was 20 at the time, 20 years old. I had not graduated from university, but I had already started working. When I decided to go for my master's, go study for my master's, during my application for admission, I didn't meet the criteria to study peace and conflict resolution, mainly because you have to have studied political science, law, or related international relations, which was way far from what I already did. But all the experience I gathered in the field literally, like, made me an exceptional candidate for my application. I would say in my application letter, the admission officer literally said, we're not giving you this admission because you fit the criteria in terms of your academic qualifications, but we're giving you this admission because of your experiences in the field, which we believe will be useful in the classroom. Studying your master's in peace studies was not just a taught course, but it was also a practical course in terms of the discussions you had in classes, in the classroom. So every time after a lecture, there is a discussion class. And in that discussion class, we have different people in my class at the time who, some of them were policemen, some of them were UN staff, and I could speak to whatever experiences they had because I also had the same experience in the field. So you can see how just having to work as a young person because the platform gave me an opportunity just basically skyrocketed me or gave me opportunities that I would not normally have. So I got a scholarship with the University of Hull to study for a PhD in law, looking into organized crime of human trafficking. And I think that was the beginning of a new journey for me. I always say that studying for a PhD was one of the hardest things I did at that time. Just consistently dealing with one subject for such a long time. I mean, at some point, people would send me things on human trafficking and think I would be so sympathetic about it. Not that I'm not sympathetic, but just think about the fact that you keep dealing with something all the time. So, like, I am all about how do we solve this matter? What's the theoretical element to this solution? What's the practical element to this solution? And I've always been dedicated to things, but that was being dedicated to one thing for a very long time. And, I did that. And I would say that even during my PhD, I did a lot of consultancy for the UN and a number of international organizations. And that also helps me because even though I was working on my PhD, I was also getting all these practical experiences in the field that just further motivated me to keep doing what I was doing. I had interactions with victims as well, and especially on a lot of people who worked in that area of trafficking, the frontline workers. And, that was something that, I felt like I was going to make a good contribution to knowledge, which I did. Um, I passed my PhD without correction, which is like a distinction in the PhD world. Um, I remember when I actually, after my Viva, I remember going home and just sleeping for like for hours because it was just like 3.5 years of lack of sleep and just, thinking that, asking yourself, when is this going to end? Um, but it ended. And I think after my PhD, I realized that what you learn from a PhD is not actually just the research you're carrying out, it's just the discipline. And I would say that that discipline has followed me up to today in whatever I do, whether it's business, whether it's dealing with people. It's just having that discipline to do quite a number of things, reading, writing. I remember, even working for the governor of Edo State, I remember one day he gave me a book and said, oh, read this book and review this book. And that was gave me the book in the afternoon, and I have to write a review of that book in the morning. I read this whole quite thick book, and it was easy for me because I have to read. I mean, if you see me in my room or in my study room during my PhD, I have a lot of books on my bed, on my desk, and I have to go through them. And sometimes you even remember the pages. Anyway, the point is, I it was an amazing experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I am so glad to the Wilberforce Institute for Slavery and Emancipation for choosing to offer me the scholarship I got to do that. And in doing that, I finished my PhD. Uh, and then whilst I was waiting for my results, I decided to go into a passion of mine, which was beauty. You know, in 2007, I set toying with the idea of starting my own skincare line. But starting your own skincare line requires time and money, and those two things I didn't have. And so I would just keep fine tuning. I'll go for training. I never use the training for anything. I got licenses, beauty licenses, didn't do anything with it because you've got to work, you've got to pay your bills. And so that was what I was doing. But during my waiting for my PhD Viva, listen, sometimes you wait for like 6 months. So in that time, I was like, what would I do? And I went back to this file. At the time, the file was called Aviana. And I went back to this file, just looked through all the things I wanted to do, because I'm fond of writing the things that I want to achieve. And I was really reading through it. I was like, oh my God, I mean, this is now 2015. And I'm reading through this file that I started to put together in 2007. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is an amazing idea. And I just never got to do it. So I thought to make an attempt. And with the support of one of my friends, to be honest, and I remember telling him, I want to do this stuff. And I thought he was going to say, are you okay? You just finished a PhD, for Christ's sake. You should be looking for other things to do. And at the time, I was attending this interview to become an associate professor with a university in the States, and also to become a lecturer and a researcher in one of the top universities in South Africa. Also trying to do work from the UK government, which was also related to what I was doing. And I looked at these three things, and all I was focused on was to start a skincare line. And I thought that was really crazy. And this is not that I didn't like I didn't like the fact that I had my PhD, but I don't know if you've ever like do something over and over and over and over again. You kind of want to take a break. And I feel like when I look back, I wanted to take a break. Just to do something else that I was passionate about. I was passionate. I'm always, as I said earlier, I'm passionate about humanitarian activities and impact. But I just needed to do something different for just a short period of time. Obviously, at the time, I was also considering all these job opportunities that came my way. And I also started my work with girls because, like I said, all through my career, I've always interacted with women's rights and girls' rights and all of that, and human rights. And I was really passionate about the girl child. So during this time, I was also like, I'll go to Nigeria, go to secondary schools, talk to young girls about their rights. I talked about different topics, and I would go to, some schools in the southeast. I didn't really do anything in Lagos because I felt like Lagos is really saturated. Not that Lagos did not need any help, but it was kind of saturated. I wanted to go into those remote areas where these girls wouldn't have the opportunity to hear from someone like me. And I had support from some of my friends in the UK and some people here in Nigeria. But I just thought to myself, how about I link this thing, this passion of mine for girls with my creating a beauty line that would actually fund what I was already doing with girls. And so I thought this name, Aviana, is perfect. Aviana is a Native American name that means strong, beautiful woman. And so I just added the La, which is the L apostrophe in Laviana, and it just gives it a French flair. So Laviana really means a strong, beautiful woman. And all that aligns with my quest to empower women and girls. So Laviana was not really meant to be like a big company. Laviana was meant to be like a side gig that funded women's empowerment, girls' empowerment, really. And so, like I said, I was considering the opportunity to become an associate professor. I was writing my book because after my PhD, I was recommended for a book because my thesis was, according to my examiners, it was an amazing thesis, and they felt like I should share this with the world. And so I got a book deal with Palgrave Macmillan, which is one of those top academic publishers in the world. And so I was working on my book. So I had quite a lot going on. So the last thing I wanted to do was to create any big company. So Laviana was just meant to be that thing that I do on the side. Little did I know that it would be a company that would hire quite a good number of people today and be a brand also to be reckoned with. So this International Women's Day, we launched our 2024 agenda for Raising Women initiative, and it's girls to women, invest, include, and inspire. So what we really want to achieve from that is really enhance the mission which the UN put out for this year, which is accelerate women through investment, and the IWD agenda this year, which is inspire inclusion. For us in Raising Women initiative, it's invest, include, and inspire, which basically rounds up everything that most of the organizations are aiming for this year. But key for us is girls to women, is building girls and ensuring that the women today inspire them. So thinking about working with key stakeholders to invest more in girls. We are doing that with some stakeholders in government, in other international organizations, to invest in women when it comes to education, leadership, sports, economic empowerment, and the likes. And we are doing that through advocacy, research, training, and just building the capacity of female-focused organizations in Nigeria and as far as we can go. So we're really optimistic about what we want to do this year. For International Women's Day, or the month of March, which is an ongoing celebration or commemoration of International Women's Day, we're going to be organizing an event where we bring women-focused organizations to really deliberate on the issues of women and girls that we see in our communities and society, and the challenges we face as organizations to address them, and what we can do as a consortium to extend the work that we're doing. Because I believe that together we can make a difference. We cannot work in isolation towards achieving a common goal. So I'm really excited about this year's agenda, and I really urge, anyone out there who is committed or has an interest in empowering women and girls to join us in making that difference. I would say my most rewarding moment as an entrepreneur or a philanthropist, I would say for philanthropy, um, it's really hard to pick something. I feel like everything that I've always done, having seen the impact in such a short period was really rewarding for me. And this is the reason why I really want to get involved in projects that are, I wouldn't say have short-term impact, but just really that I want things to mean something. Sometimes we do a lot of work within our sector, in the humanitarian sector. Not that it doesn't mean anything, but by the time you see the impact, it takes like 50 or thousands of people to do something like that for you to see the impact. So I would say there are a few works I've done that I felt like, yes, I liked the impact. For instance, when I did a lot of work with around the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 on gender mainstreaming with the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center. We did a lot of research around that to see how far that resolution had gone. And a lot of the research we did with other co-consultants led to the development of WIPSI, which is a Women, Peace and Security Institute in Ghana. And that was really, for me, a rewarding one to see that the body of work we did alongside other people working in the center led to that. That was rewarding for me. Also seeing the work we did alongside other colleagues in Edo State, working with the governor and seeing his enthusiasm, the governor of Edo State, which is Governor Godwin Obaseki. It was really rewarding to see a governor who had the political will to do something about a problem that has existed for decades. And seeing how, for me, it was so data-driven, and in such a short period of time, I felt like there was such a great impact that even the international stakeholders were even more motivated to do work in Edo State. And the social change that generated from reducing trafficking and irregular migration in Edo State was, for me, when I look back and see how far it's come and how the projects that we started has grown, that I find rewarding. As an entrepreneur, I would say that, you create a lot of products and you just hope that it goes very far. When I started Laviana, I tell you, when you look at my business plan, I would say it's not exactly like what I'm doing today. But, I feel like when your business informs you of your growth, that's the best thing. You can imagine the growth you can have in a company or within a business, but allowing the business to teach you as you run it. For me, I've seen that help Laviana become what it is today. When we decided to create our anchor product, which is the Melanie Glow range, it wasn't a product that we created because we just wanted to create a product. We worked with some reputable organizations like CUC, which is like a PwC, did an analysis, research, spoke to a lot of young women, a lot of women, really, different ages, between the age of 16 to 55. And we realized what was so consistent for us in the conversation was that a lot of dark-skinned girls felt that they didn't find themselves in shelves. And we thought that is something we want to change. We want dark-skinned girls or black girls to go on a shelf and see themselves and see that a company make them feel special with what they produce. And that gave birth to Melanin Glow. And today, Benedict Glow range is one of our best-selling range of products. I don't remember people telling me, if it's not bleaching, it's not going to sell. If it's not bleaching, it's not going to sell. But black girls proved to me that they love their skin because Melanin Glow, till today, like I said, is the best selling. And when I look back on how far we've come with that product, I mean, I find that so rewarding. And the fact that we created a movement of people who love their beautiful black skin. I find that rewarding that we were able to close or reduce that gap in colorism, in black women confidence. Well, you know, when the dollar crisis started, and it's still ongoing, by the way, I was really, would I say, nervous because we went from your cost price becoming times 3, in some cases times 4. And you wonder, how do you really, how would this business continue? You know, and I just kept saying to myself, something will stop, it will give, but it just kept going. At some point, you know what, I stopped worrying about it and started to think strategically, you know, for Laviana. And I would say one of the key things was, you know, they say necessity is the mother of invention. I wouldn't sit here and say that, you know, the economy is great. It's not, period. It's not. I don't know how many businesses are going to cope. People can show you all kinds of things on Instagram, but believe me, everybody is feeling the pinch, even the so-called billionaires out there. They are losing money. I'll just give you a clip. Imagine you bought something for 500 naira and you bought like 100 of it, and then you've sold half of it for the right price based on the cost price that you set for it. And in less than 3 months before that product finishes, the cost price is like times 4. You only have 20 left. What do you do afterwards? You can't even afford to buy that product again. You can't afford to manufacture that product again. That is how business go kaput. You know, so right now, people either need more money to keep afloat or just sit and do nothing. It just depends on the kind of business you're running, really. So I really pity a lot of we entrepreneurs. But for me and for Laviana, what we are doing is really going back, looking at what we've done, trying to see what we've done well, think about streamlining, and, you know, finding new ways to work with what we have. And so that's what we are doing at the moment, really consolidating on the things that we've done well. And I can say that new ideas are coming up, and not so much so new ideas or new products, but mainly just having to look back at what we've done and seeing the things that we can utilize from, you know, so it's not about doing something new, it's doing something differently. It's what we are doing right now. I remember, you know, leaving the hospital and on, is it Ikoyi Bridge? What was that? There was this, yeah, driving past, and I just started crying. And my brother was like wondering, why was I was crying? I should be happy that I had just left the hospital. And what I saw was people just going about their business. Cars, just looking around. Lagos felt new to me. And it just dawned on me, life goes on even when you're gone. I thought I was going to lose my life with that sort of medical emergency, but I'm here today. But what I learned from that is that you've got to have a balance. work never, as he said, well, I know they finish. And from that day, I just basically balanced my personal life with my work life. I did as much as I could do. But what I did was to think of myself as a 9 to 5er. I start work in the morning and it must have an end. But as an entrepreneur, we run the risk of always not having a clock to how we work. We can work round the clock. I will tell you that there are days when, especially during product development, I would not sleep for like 2 to 3 days. I could do that because during my PhD it was the same thing. I could study for like 3 days. I only eat, use the loo, that's it. And I would study for like, because I wanted to finish something. And so I had that discipline. I could stay awake for days. And I continued doing that. But it was detrimental to my health. So I had to force myself to find that balance. Play, eat, pray, like I said, meditate, have time for my friends, appreciate being around my family, just putting a time to things that gives me more life. And what gives you more life is not just work. It's family, it's friends. It's also building yourself as a person. Just sometimes doing nothing is so good for you. What advice would I give my younger self? I would say loosen up. I took life too seriously as a younger person. I won't say I don't anymore, but it was, man, I took life seriously. I mean, think about how a teenager would take life so seriously that your parents would tell you to calm down. Life is not that serious. But I did. And I look back and I realized that I lost a lot of my um, early age, like 20s, like late teens. I didn't do what my mates would do. I wouldn't even say I had peer pressure at all, because I was really bent on, being a certain way. Even people would not invite me for parties because they would invite me, but they're sure I would say no. Because I thought, no, I'm heading somewhere. I need to be a certain way. I even thought it felt like in my early 20s, I dressed like an old woman because I wanted to be taken seriously. I used to write beads, do things like, man, I look back and I'm like, what did I even know? I knew nothing. But what I loved about my younger self was the audacity. The audacity. So even though people expect you to tell your younger self you did some things wrong, I would also tell my younger self that, girl, you were so audacious. I was an audacious young girl. And I still want that audacity to dare in myself today. So there are part of my younger self that I still want today. But I think the part of my younger self, what I would say to my younger self in terms of improvement is live a little, enjoy life, because there are certain things I will do now at my age, and people will like, didn't you do this when you were in your 20s? Didn't you do this when you were a teenager? Actually, I didn't. I didn't. And so it will catch up with you. And it did catch up. It did catch up with me. I wouldn't say I experienced everything, but I wish I experienced more. I wish I lived a little when I was younger. I'm optimistic about the future. And what I've done so far is really, really look back to analyze where I came from, the journey I've had from when I started as a beauty queen to an entrepreneur to a PhD holder, to a career-driven person till today. I did quite a lot of things. I look at my CV, it's rich, but now I need to consolidate. And that's what I'm doing. I look back in my life and all the work that I've done, and I realize that there's something that is consistent, and that is women and girls. Everything I do links to helping them achieve their highest self. And so I want to focus on that and this time around, making sure that everything I do in my life links to that. Whether it is Laviana in terms of beauty, whether it's Raising Women Initiative in terms of, share humanitarian empowerment of girls and women. And so for the future, I'm really going to concentrate on building Raising Women Initiative and working to raise girls who will be strong leaders, women leaders for tomorrow. I look forward to making Laviana even global, and not just Laviana, but my aim and my vision for women and girls, from beauty to humanitarian work, global.